Mike.
Yo.
How many American flag jackets do you have?
I don't have...
Full 3-button suit.
Oh, 3-button? I only have 2-button suits.
Okay,
so
that's
actually,
true.
I have 0 3-button suits.
I
have one with tails, though.
Oh, that's fancy.
No, I don't. You know why? Because that's not very board game. That's very American, but not very board game. But we're talking about distinctly American board games.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. If you didn't know, we're very from California.
What?
If you couldn't tell by the way we talk.
Oh, man, we put
our
off an
Canadian
aura.
friends tell us, like, God, you two are from California.
I
And
don't
we're
know
like,
what that
"Yeah, we are,
means."
sorry." Apparently, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, we're standing on a surfboard right now.
Yeah, of course we are.
But, I mean, why would
Well,
we
it's
not?
for the core.
But nonetheless, we're going to talk about 10 games that we think feel distinctly American.
Yeah.
We were talking to our friends Jeff and Jamie over at Foster, people who, if you don't know, live in Canada.
Check them out.
Up in Nova Scotia. They're wonderful. And Mike asked at one point, like, hey, by the way, what do you think is like a distinctly American game?
Yeah.
Getting from someone who's not American.
Because I
And
had
it
some
was-
in my head, but I want to know if I was making sense.
It was fascinating to hear their answers. Some of them were like historical ones,
Yeah.
you know, like it's not on our list, but like making of the president. It's like, yeah, that makes sense because it's literally about the
an
American
American election.
election,
A
right?
specific American
But
election.
other ones were kind of like, this just feels American. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So we're going to have our top 10 games that feel like distinctly American.
Number 10 on our games that feel distinctly American is a game that's called Trailer Park Wars. This is a game that my brother and I played with our other two siblings one time. And you can't help but feel like it's American because it's very much based on the stereotypes of an American trailer park. I won't say this is the most fair portrayal ever and stuff, but it's based on stereotypes that have been populated in movies and TV shows and things like that. And it just feels like all those things that feel like in a trailer park where you're literally gaining pink flamingos, like lawn ornaments for your victory points and stuff like that, and having wars with the other trailer parks to be the best darn trailer park manager in the lands and stuff. So this is one that we're like, I wouldn't say this is the best view of trailer park life and stuff, because I think living in a trailer park is a perfectly fine thing to do, and this does not portray that fairly per se, but it does feel very American. I don't think that when I see this that it's going to be outside of Rome, Italy. It feels pretty American. That is Trailer Park Wars number 10.
Our number 9 is a game all about Chicago, and that is City of the Big Shoulders. If you've ever been to Chicago, everyone there has huge deltoids because everyone's doing these all day. It's like, ugh. Oh yeah, everyone just bowling ball shoulders. That's what everyone has. But nonetheless, this is a game about this time, I think it's around the 20s or so, this time in Chicago, because a lot of companies that if you're an American, you would recognize came out of this era. Like Oscar Mayer came out of Chicago this time. There's a whole bunch of really iconic companies that came out of the Chicago, Illinois area at this time. And so this game is about that. And this is a stock market worker placement game. And I like this game a lot because this was the first time I actually played like a stock market-y kind of game that I enjoyed. Like I've never had any interest in like 18xx games and games where you're buying stock and like tanking other people's stocks and doing this. It's just a little bit too aggressive for my personal kind of gameplay, but I really liked City of the Big Shoulders. One, it's got a really cool look to it, and then on top of that, it's also a worker placement game. You're placing out your workers, getting different stuff, and then you also will be getting like managers, and those managers you'll be putting into your various companies because you get companies like Oscar Mayer, and they all do different stuff. Some are making like shoes, some are making clothes, some are making all sorts of different stuff, and you can put like managers and stuff inside of these businesses to essentially make them more valuable. And then classic stock market stuff, you're getting stocks, you're selling stocks, you're paying out dividends, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really fun. This is a game that I went into being like, man, I love the city of Chicago, but oh, I don't think I'm gonna like this game. I don't think I'm gonna like it. And I ended up playing it and I really, really enjoyed it. It's never a game that I would ever feel the need to like own, honestly, because I have friends who have it. And I would just play it with them. But I really like City of the Big Shoulders. It's really, really cool. And it's distinctly American because it's about Chicago. And it's about this area and the businesses, a lot of American businesses that came out of this time in this area. So it feels very distinctly American. And that's our number 9.
Number 8 is Suburbia. This is a game where you are placing tiles in your suburb outside of a major town, and all the tiles that you place might be residential, they might be commercial, they might be industrial, and they all are going to gain boons or have setbacks based on what tiles are adjacent to those. And you're building out the kind of best town that you can to have as most appeal and reputation as possible, so that more and more people move to your town to increase your population. The highest population at the end of the game wins. This game feels American to me because it feels very much based on the suburbs that are outside all the towns that we kind of grew up in and around. Where you're gonna have things like your elementary schools, and you're gonna have your little business centers, you're gonna have your freeways and your airports. Everything about it, all the different types of items, at least to me, feel like based on the American conception of a suburb. I feel like if I hear suburb, I don't think of a different country having suburbs. I'm sure they do, but it just feels like such an American-based kind of game, and with the types of tiles that you have and the names of those tiles all feel like things that we see in any kind of suburb that you either grew up in or grew up near. So that is Suburbia, number 8 of our American games.
Number 7 is all about American politics, kind of, and that is Watergate. Watergate, if you don't know, is a huge scandal in American politics, and it's between Richard Nixon and then essentially the media, the people trying to pin him down, which eventually would cause him to resign. And so this is a 2-player game, and it is a exact tug of war game is the best way to put it. It's constantly tugging and warring, because as Nixon, if you're playing the Nixon side, President Nixon, you are trying to essentially not get caught, and you're trying to essentially shut down different leads around the board. The board is this really, really cool, like, pin board where you know, it's kind of like that meme with Charlie Day where you're showing all the different ways of pointing to trying to get stuff back to Nixon. It's a really cool looking board that I think works with this theme a lot. And the other side is the team trying to get evidence, trying to get witnesses, trying to get all these things to pin down Lincoln. And it's this constant literal tug of war where you're getting evidence and that evidence is getting taken away, or Nixon's trying to shut down evidence. It's really, really cool, really in your face, really high stakes, and there's events going on, and all of this is real. All of this happened in the US, unfortunately. And so it's so cool to kind of go through it again in this aspect and be both of these sides and really go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's a lot of games that you can kind of put in this category, like Making of a President. I've never actually played Making of a President, 1960. I can't remember the exact date. But that is also a distinctly American game because it's about American politics, and so is this, right? And so it's really, really cool, really fun game, even if you don't have any stake in it, like you're not American. I think Watergate is still a very, very fun game, but it's a really cool push and pull and push and pull tug of war game where you're trying to find evidence and get that evidence shut down depending on who you are. It's really, really cool, and that's Watergate.
Number 6 is Cascadia. This is all about putting together tiles and putting animals on those tiles that are all based on animals in the Pacific Northwest. This is a game that's very kind of localized in terms of the types of animals that you'll play. You have bears and elk and hawks and things like that. And the artwork and stuff by Beth Sobol is kind of based on the area that Beth Sobol knows, which is the Pacific Northwest. So this one is kind of regionally locked to America, or North America anyway. And so that's why it feels kind of American to us. It doesn't, have flags going on and stuff like that, but it's a specific area with a specific ecosystems, landscapes, and types of animals that you're going to see in the Pacific Northwest with the salmon and everything else. This game is super fun. It's a really simple rule set. You're going to draft a tile along with an animal token. You'll add your tile somewhere in your little display, your ever-growing tableau of tiles. You kind of want to match landscapes if you can, mountains with mountains, meadow with meadow, and things like that. And then you can put an animal token onto any of your tiles that shows that animal. Animals are going to be built into certain groupings, into a line or a run, or fox, for example, might want to have a bunch of different types of animals surrounding it. Hawks might want to be all separated and things like that. And it's all about kind of building out landscapes as best you can and building out those animal tokens in the most satisfactory ways per the scoring conditions, which might change from round to round. Exactly how a salmon scores might change. They'll kind of be similar, but there's all sorts of replayability built into the game because of those ways that those animal scorings trade out. And it's kind of in the beautiful Northwest, which is one of the most kind of stunning, most gorgeous areas that we have here in the US.
Number 5 could have been a couple games like Roll Camera, but we decided to go with the Networks. And the Networks is all about running a TV station. Now, TV is not strictly American, of course, but Hollywood is very American, right? There, of course, is movies and stuff from all over the world, and there's Bollywood in India, and tons of movies come out of Nigeria, and there's tons of movies obviously in Britain and France and all these different places. So many different places have movies, but Hollywood is very much an American thing, an American institution, and the Networks is all about running a TV station, but it feels like a very American TV station, at least to us. Although there is an expansion for the Networks called Teletime, and it's all about British shows. So actually, in that case, it's really not that distinctly American in that way. But nonetheless, we really love the Networks, and there is the Networks is a game where you're putting on a TV, you run a TV station, you're putting on shows, and you're drafting out these kind of show cards and getting these show cards, and all the shows are fun because they're all just puns on different American TV shows. So instead of Fringe, it's Cringe. Instead of like So You Think You Can Dance, it's So You Think You Can Flail. It's really, really silly. And it's got this really weird art style that works in this world very well. But the game itself is a decently crunchy, fun, kind of Euro-style-y game where you're building out a TV station. And it really doesn't feel like any other game I've ever played. But you have different time slots. You have 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and 10 p.m. So you're working at pure prime time. And you're getting different shows, and those different shows will want to be in certain time slots. And you're getting viewers, which are your points in this game. And as your rounds go on, your shows will age, and certain shows will get better with age. They start off kind of okay. The second season, they get good. The third season and fourth season, they really take off. And some shows, they start off hot, and then people kind of lose interest in them. As you're constantly switching out shows, some shows require ads, some shows require stars to be on them. It's really, really fun. And because it kind of just feels like very American TV, it just feels very American to us at least. But there are a couple different Hollywood games you can throw in here like Roll Camera. But nonetheless, the Networks is our choice because we just really like it.
Number 4 has American in the name. This is Horrified American Monsters. This is all about cryptids and kind of trying to solve the mystery or prove the existence of various cryptids in North America. So you have things like Bigfoot and Mothman, and you're chasing down these creatures, trying to learn their secrets and then kind of reveal them to the world. This is based on Horrified, which is based on the Universal movie monster verse, which is also really fantastic. This one sets it around cryptids, which I think are really popular, and we have in the States a really kind of rich history of urban legends and cryptids, the kind of big monsters, mysterious creatures and things. And I love that they're being featured kind of so centrally in a game. This is a pick up and deliver game ultimately. We're going to move your character around, picking up different items, which those items are going to be then used to, again, kind of work the puzzle of each monster. Each monster works a little bit differently. They have different kind of things that you need to achieve to kind of discover their identity and then confront them. And getting those items and stuff is going to be your kind of way that you fuel that. So it's a really fun game, simple rule set ultimately that you can kind of bring new gamers into. And it's got kind of like a really appealing board, and cryptids and mysteries and things I think are just something that we are, because of podcasts and everything like that, we're really kind of tuned into. So I think it's a perfect theme for this time. That is Horrified American Monsters.
Number 3 is a game called Stockpile. This is actually another stock market game. We talked about Cities of Big Shoulders earlier. Stockpile is another kind of distinctly American game. Now, we asked our good friends at Foster the Meeple, like we talked about, who are from Canada. They're up in Nova Scotia. What are some distinctly American games? And I believe they mentioned Stockpile. And while stocks are not like a wholly American thing, but the on the stock floor, buy it and sell it, you see all those times, everyone on the stock floor, everyone's on 2 phones at one time, buy this, buy that. That feels distinctly American, was kind of their whole point about the whole thing. And so we were like, oh, that's interesting. And this Stockpile game kind of feels like that, where you're putting out stuff, there's a couple different companies in the game and you're getting stocks from those companies. And then you also have insider information where you know every single round, the stocks are going to kind of go up and down. They're going to go up and down. And everyone is given a piece of information, so you know one of the stocks and what it's going to do. So you might know, like, oh my gosh, this steel company is going to tank. And so you might want to get rid of that steel company. But if everyone sees you selling off this steel company, they might be like, oh gosh, is the steel company going to tank? Is the steel company going to tank? And so you can kind of mess with each other like that. That kind of insider information is fun. And then you are getting these different stock cards and these kind of action cards, and you're putting some of them face up, some of them face down, and then everyone is going to bid essentially for a kind of pile of these cards. And that is what you're getting. And you're bidding, you're outbidding each other, having a move, and then you get those cards, and then sometimes some actions take place, and then the stock market moves, and everything kind of moves around. And this is a game that you really should play with one of the expansions, because the expansion adds these dice, which means stuff moves around a lot more, which is really, really cool. And it's just really, really fun. But that kind of, again, like quick stock markety, everyone's waving money and tickets and trying to call people, stuff that feels very American. And so Stockpile is not one of those games we would have thought of originally. But after we talked about it with our friends, we were kind of like, oh yeah, I guess that one does make sense. And so Stockpile's on the list because, I don't know, it kind of just feels distinctly American, even if stocks themselves aren't.
Number 2 is Baseball Highlights 2045. Now this is a game where you're playing baseball. That's pretty American. Now, of course, baseball has grown around the world, which is so exciting. There's so many exciting players from all sorts of different places. And even in Baseball Highlights, you can play teams and stuff from all around the world. But of course, you think of, at least at its origin, baseball being an American sport. And this game replicates that, but then it takes it up a notch because now you have players who are robots, players who are cyborgs, and then you have the naturals, the old-timey, old-school baseball players. And you're playing in this kind of futuristic, modified version of baseball. But what's really cool is you're playing cards out, and it feels very much like baseball. I'm going to be playing a card, I'm going to threaten a certain amount of hits, and you're going to play a card that hopefully defends against some of those hits and then also threatens your own offense that I must then react to and try to diffuse any stuff that you have going on, keep your runners off the base paths and things like that, and then provide my own offense. There's this great kind of tug of war, this back and forth, this war of attrition. What do I allow you to get? Because it's going to allow me to get what I want to get in this game that feels very much like baseball put into a card game. That to me is just really fascinating on its own, that they're able to do that. It works really well. I love baseball, so it feels great, and it feels very kind of American because it's set in America in a, albeit kind of strange future that I can maybe actually see happening with baseball.
And number 1 is probably pretty obvious, and this is, I don't know, any Western game like ever, basically. We're going to choose Great Western Trail, but you could choose Western Legends, Tiny Epic Western, really any kind of like, that kind of like Western is very distinctly American. Western movies were huge back then. They still are huge. There's still, Yellowstone is like one of the biggest shows on TV right now, and it's still got that like Western feel. That's such an American kind of institution. Western movies, Western TVs, and Western games, and Western books, and all this kind of stuff. Red Dead Redemption is a big Western video game. It's like they all just feels, you're out in the American frontier, basically, right? So we could have chosen basically any Western game, and we didn't want to fill the entire list with Western games. So we're like, we'll just make it number 1, and we'll choose Great Western Trail. Because Great Western Trail is personally our favorite one, because it's just a big Euro game. In Great Western Trail, you are running cattle up to Kansas City, which is in the middle of the country. And then those cows are then getting shipped off to different American cities. Although I think in expansion, one of them is Montreal. So we are moving outside of America, the expansion. But nonetheless, you're going out to San Francisco, you're going out to New York, which they changed it to, but you're going out to Chicago, all these different kinds of cities. But what is you're running cattle. You're on the frontier and you're running cattle up to Kansas City turning in those cattle and then shipping them out. And on the way, you can put down buildings. You can get more diverse kinds of cattle because you want a really diverse herd of cattle. You don't want all one kind because when you get to Kansas City, when you sell off the cattle, you only get to sell off unique cattle. So if you have 2 of the same kind, you only get to set off 1 of them. The other one doesn't do anything. And you're making money and all this kind of stuff. It's really, really fun. Great Western Trail is a hugely popular game. And I guess at this point, we should probably specify, we're talking about Great Western Trail, the original one, and the second edition, because now there's Great Western Trail Argentina, which is distinctly not American, and there's Great Western Trail New Zealand, which I think is going to be about sheep, and that's also not American, although Great Western Trail Argentina is very, very fun, and I'm very excited for Great Western Trail New Zealand. But nonetheless, Great Western Trail, and really any Western game, is our number 1 because Westerns and just feels very American.
So those are games that make us go, yeehaw, America!
Sure,
in our hearts and minds. I don't know. We would love to know what you think of games that you think of, like, you know what, this feels like an American game, for better or worse.
Well, and here's the thing, not even that, like wherever you are, or wherever you think, like, hey, this feels like a distinctly German game, or distinctly
feels
French
like
game.
home to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like what feels like distinctly from that place kind of game? Because I feel like there's ones like, oh, this is a Belgian game.
Super Belgian. Just crazy Belgian.
Exact. Waffles everywhere. I'm sorry, Belgian people. But nonetheless, that is going to be it. Let us know down in the comments below some games that feel very much like where they're from. And I think that's it. I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We'll see you later.